Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate Weapon tutorial. And in today's video, we're moving on to ranged weapons. I've done all of the melee weapons so far, so if you want to know how to use any of them, then they're all on the channel for you guys to check out. But today, we're going to kick it off with the bow. First up, here it is. It shoots arrows, pew pew, like so. But in all seriousness, the bow is actually a pretty good starting point if you want to get into ranged weapons. It's got infinite ammo, so you don't need to worry about bullets running out. Plus, the bow just looks so much cooler than guns. Now, just before we begin talking about the various moves, in Monster Hunter 4 they introduced a new control scheme for bows. It's got a bit of an FPS feel to it because you use the R button to shoot and the X button to aim, which is a little bit weird given that no other weapon in Monster Hunter functions this way. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to use Type 1. If you want to change that, then what you want to do is press start, go over to your second page, go to the options screen, scroll to the second page of that, scroll down to bow controls, and you can see you can switch between Type 1 and Type 2. So we're going to go with Type 1. If you want to know what that does, then if we go down to weapon controls and quickly take a look at the bow, you'll see on the first page it says that on Type 1, X is to shoot your arrow and R is to aim, whereas on Type 2, R is to shoot your arrow and X is to aim. As I said, if you've played Monster Hunter before, or you're kind of getting into it and you've used any other weapons, then it's just going to be weird if you've already associated X with attack. So, with that set up, let's begin by taking a look at the basic moves. First up, with your weapon drawn out, if you press X, you'll shoot arrows. And as I said before, you have infinite ammo, so you can fire to your heart's content. If you then hold down X, you can charge your shot. Now, most bows that you encounter in the game will have 3 levels of charge, but either way, irrespective of how many they've got, a charge shot is more powerful than a regular shot. So what you want to do when you're using the bow is get into the habit of landing charge shots as opposed to just sitting there spamming out regular shots, because these will not do as much damage as these. Now, if you want to find out the details of your particular bow, then what you want to do is press start and go over to the equipment screen. I'm currently in the demo, so I can't actually access this, but when you go into the equipment screen, you can look at your bow and it will explain exactly how many charge levels you've got and what those charge levels equate to. But generally, you'll just get into the habit of using your level 3 charge. Also, as you may have noticed, similar to the hammer, you can run around while your weapon is charging or while you have stamina. But also in the same way as the hammer, if your stamina runs out, then your shot will automatically fire. Like so. Also with the bow, you never want to be in a position where you're out of stamina, not only because it won't let you evade, but also you don't want to be in a position where you're doing this. You're trying to fire charge shots, but all you can do is get out quick shots because now you're not doing much damage and you're no use to anyone. There is a considerable amount of difference between the damage you do from a charge shot and your regular shot. Also, if you want to, you can hold down R and it'll bring up an aiming reticle. This will allow you to pinpoint a particular area on a monster, so while for the most part you'll roam around like this, position yourself in front of the monster, face them and let go your arrows to ensure they hit. There will come the occasional time, maybe you're trying to break a horn, where you want to aim and be slightly more precise, so you can use this in situations like that, but for the most part that does leave you slightly vulnerable. You just want to get into the habit, like I said here, of running around charged, and then as soon as you find the monster, position yourself, line up, let go your shot, and that's how you're going to be firing. Then when you're not shooting your arrows, you can press A to use your arrow to do a swipe. This does not do much damage, and believe me, as a bow user, you're not going to be using it that much, simply because you're going to be engaging the enemy from a distance. The main use for that is if you've got those sort of small pesky insects and they're coming up close and they're going to trip you up, you can use that to kind of push them away, but for the most part you won't be using it. You can also go one step further and chain a second hit together, so you can press A twice to do double swipes, but again you'll basically never use this. Then, in a similar way to the lance, you can press B to hop backwards, but this time you can hop back as much as you want, provided you have stamina. Once you have no stamina, there are no more hops. But as a bow user, this has 2 uses. First and foremost, yes, it is a good way to evade, but also it's a great way to judge your distance from a monster. And I'll explain in a second why judging your distance is so important. So, those are your basic shots, but the other key thing about the bow is the coatings, as this is how you're going to be amping up that damage and landing all those status effects. If you hold down L and you press X and B, you can scroll between the coatings. As you can see here, power, poison, sleep, para, the list goes on, but you can see these are my coatings that are available. Now, different bows can use different coatings, and again, just like last time, if you go to your equipment page, if you're in the full game and you open up and look at your bow, the bow will also detail which coatings it supports. Now, among all of these coatings, the most important one is this, the power coating. If you have this applied, you will be doing 1.5 times as much damage every single shot. That is a considerable increase to damage, and that will be the difference between a 20-minute hunt and a 10-minute hunt. Now, pretty much all bows will support this coating, but there are a few that don't, so in the event you do have a bow that doesn't support it, there's also an armor skill that allows you to carry a power coating, so do at all times make sure you have it. Whether you need to gem it, whether you need to skill it, whether you need to have a different bow, either way, power coating is something you should always have. That is your bread and butter. So once you have a coating, if you press X and A together, you'll apply it. As you can see now, if you look at the top of the screen, got a small red file with ×5 by it, and that indicates that my coating is now applied, and from now on, every single shot I do has a power coating on it. As you can see, every time I shoot out, I lose one of the files, and on the right hand side, it says I've got 46 left, 45, 44, and now I'm just wasting them shooting them into the ravine. But for every shot I land, I'm doing increased damage. And the same applies to different ones. So for example, if I put on the poison coating, then all of those 20 shots have a chance of applying a poison status effect. Do bear in mind, if you're new to Monster Hunter, that you do need to stack up those status effects. So one shot will not poison a monster, but if you land lots of shots in succession, then once it stacks up enough, the monster will be inflicted by that status effect, and that is when it takes effect. So it may take you all 20 shots, but once you've landed it, the monster will be poisoned, and similarly if it's a different coating, the monster may be paralysed, asleep, exhausted, etc. Now your bow also has a special move, but this will depend on the type of bow you have. See, there are two types of bows. There are power shot bows and arc shot bows. Again, just like before, if you go to the equipment menu, this will tell you what type of bow you have. Now this particular bow I'm carrying right now is a power shot bow, so this is what my special looks like. However, the arc shot bow has a different special, and I'll explain both of them. If you have a power shot bow, then in order to do your special, you hold down X to charge your shot, press A whilst charging, and you'll fire it out. Alternatively, you can press A after shooting. So I can press X, then press A, and that's also a power shot. That second one is exclusive to this type of bow. With an arc shot bow, you can only perform your special by holding down charge and then pressing A. Now on this type of bow, that special does increase damage. What it effectively means is that when I fire off the second shot, or the special shot, that has one charge level higher than the previous shot I did. Now I appreciate that's a bit of a confusing wording, so what I basically mean by that is, if I charge my weapon and let's say I had a level 3 charge here, I then fire that out and then press A to follow, my second shot is now one charge level higher. So if you've got a bow that only has 3 charge levels, you're then doing damage and are able to obtain a charge level higher than what your bow would normally support. Now just like before, in your equipment menu, the details of what your different charge levels mean are again inside this menu. But generally speaking, again with your bow in its simplest form, you're going to be firing out level 3 charge shots, and then ideally if you have a power shot bow, you're going to follow up with your special, and then you're going to be doing much more damage. That does a lot of damage, so do try and get it in wherever you can. Then alternatively, if you have an arc shot bow, then performing your special will instead unleash a volley of arrows. Now I do apologise, I don't have an arc shot bow to demonstrate this, so you're just going to have to listen to me for this one, but I'll explain how it works, I'll explain the principles of it, and then that way if you do have one in game, then you'll know what to do. The main difference with this one, as I said before, is that if you have an arc shot bow, the only way you can perform your special is by holding down X to charge your shot, and then pressing A to unleash it. The reason for this is because when you have an arc shot bow, you can also charge your super, or your special. And depending on how long you charge it, determines how far the volley will go. A quick charge will be near, a longer charge will be further away. But there's more. Arc shot bows come in 3 types: wide, focus, and blast. Wide arc shot bows fan out over a larger area before landing. Focus shots concentrate the volley in one area, but allow it to hit multiple times, which is great for inflicting status conditions, and blast types will cause the shots to explode on impact. Now again, as I said, I do apologise that I don't have a bow to illustrate this, but just know that if you have one of those types of bows, you simply perform your special by holding down X, and then either pressing or holding A to unleash your volley. So with that out of the way, there's only one more thing to cover. And that, my friends, is positioning. See, with your bow, there is something known as a critical distance. If you are too far away from a monster, or you're too close, your shots will not do as much damage. But if you are at the critical distance, you are doing the most damage possible. So, for example, if I go up to this poor unsuspecting monster here, and I stand really, really close, you'll see that when I fire out the shot, the screen stays still. If I move back a little bit and unleash a shot now, notice how the screen shook a little bit. That indicates that I am in my critical distance, and that is where you want to be. This zone right here. Now this zone will also vary from bow type to bow type. If you have a wide bow which fires spread shots, you'll want to be slightly closer, typically 1 to 1.5 hops away from the monster. If you have a pierce bow, then you want to be a bit further away, maybe sort of 2 to 3 hops. This is where practice comes in. Now yes, in an ideal world I would illustrate this with all 3 different types of bows, but then I'd be here forever. So instead, you want to use that screen shake as your indicator. See, the best way to learn this, if you are new to Monster Hunter, is quite simply to go on a hunt, get your bow out, and then get to a point where you can fire at the enemy, and then establish your distance. Once you know this distance and you learn it, it's then a case of memorising it and recognising it. Because then you'll get into a point where you can position yourself right all the time, fire at your shots, and do the most damage. If you are fighting a monster, you could run around in circles, so that way you can keep the distance the same all the time. Or alternatively, if you've got a charge shot and you know this is the spot to be, then you can run around in circles, making sure you maintain this spot. And then once you line up the shot, you simply stand in front, let it out, and then you're good to go. And then obviously don't forget, where possible, do try and land that special afterwards, so you fire out, follow up with a special, and you're doing the most damage. And when you're starting out, you can even use hops to determine the distance. So for example, the bow that I've got is ideally 2 hops away. Unfortunately that monster just disappeared, but let's use these mushrooms for example. Let's say these are the monster. This bow is about 2 hops away, so I press B twice, hop backwards, and this is about the optimal distance. If those mushrooms were a monster, and I fired my arrow at them, my screen would shake, and that would be my critical distance. If you're using a spread shot bow, then typically it's 1 to 1.5 hops away, so you'd probably be more about here. And if you're using a pierced bow, it's typically 2 to 3 hops away, so you'll probably be more around here. Either way, this is something you're going to need to practice, and you're going to need to get used to, but once you know it, once you recognise it, you'll be doing it all the time. And that is pretty much it. The only other thing worth mentioning, the bow has a jump attack, jump in the air, press X, you slash with your arrow, but again, it's not going to do that much damage, but if you do want to mount a monster, then that option is there. So that, my friends, is it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Again, I do apologise that I didn't have a bow to illustrate the other type of bow, but hopefully my explanation still made it clear enough for you guys. If you do have any questions, then do let me know in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer them. Or if there's anything else you want to know about any other weapons in general, then simply ask them down below. But otherwise, if you did find this helpful, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that like button down below. It does really help us out. And obviously don't forget to subscribe for daily gaming videos and much more Monster Hunter coverage. I've got 2 more weapons to do. I've got the light bowgun and the heavy bowgun, and they're going to be coming this week. And then after that, I've got plenty more Monster Hunter tutorials coming your way that will show you all the basics about the game. So if you're new to Monster Hunter and you want to know more, then keep it locked right here. But thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.